The clinking of crystal glasses celebrating the new public relations director had barely faded when a wheezing escaped my throat, sharp and unexpected. I am Sailor Cole, an expert in antique book restoration, far more accustomed to dust and silence than to opulent gatherings like this. I felt entirely out of place among the designer suits and polished smiles. My sister, Sloane, stood on a small podium at the front of the VIP room, her teeth gleaming under the warm amber lighting. Leaning into the microphone, she offered her practiced PR smile, though it never quite reached her eyes. "Here we go again," she said, voice heavy with theatrical exhaustion. "Sailor? Don't make a scene. It's just mushroom soup. There's no crab. Or do you want to ruin my promotion party?" A ripple of uneasy laughter passed through the room. Sloane believed her sharp joke had landed, enjoying the attention. She didn't anticipate that the man across from me, Magnus Thorne, the group chairman who had approved her promotion, was staring at my soup with absolute alarm. Magnus Thorne's daughter has a severe shellfish allergy. He knew precisely how anaphylaxis presents, how airways constrict. Before I could react, he was moving, drawing an EpiPen from his $5,000 suit and rushing toward me with an agility that seemed impossible for his 58 years. To understand why I was in that near-death situation, I need to explain the events leading up to it. The evening was intended as an intimate celebration of Sloane's promotion in the VIP room of Etoile, a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant with a 3-month reservation wait and unlimited credit requirements. The space was drenched in dim golden light, chandeliers dripping with crystals, walls lined in dark wood, an atmosphere of old money and ambition. I am 26, and despite my age, I have earned recognition as an antique book conservator. Some call me the surgeon for history, for my calm precision, logical approach, and deep knowledge of preservation chemistry. I work with manuscripts centuries old, handling them with the care most reserved for diffusing bombs. My hands have restored pieces that survived wars, floods, and fires. My work demands patience, silence, and reverence for fragile beauty. Sloane, 29, had just been promoted to Public Relations Director at Thorne Global, one of the country's largest multinationals. She presents herself with designer clothes, flawless hair, and a switchable smile. Where I am cautious and quiet, she is bold and reckless. Where I preserve, she seeks attention. Our parents, Alistair and Cordelia Cole, 60, are famously vain. That evening, they beamed at Sloane's achievement, basking in reflected glory, constantly praising her career, while dismissing mine as dusty or insignificant. To them, I am the disappointing daughter who chose books over boardrooms. The tension that led to my poisoning began before the party. Earlier, in the restaurant lobby, Sloane tried to intercept Magnus Thorne, showing him a media report about Thorne Global's latest acquisition. She sought his attention. Instead, Magnus saw me near the coat check. His face brightened, and he spent 20 minutes asking detailed questions about paper deacidification, pH balance, and preservation methods, even discussing a recently acquired collection he wanted me to consult on. I watched Sloane's reaction. Jaw tight, fingers curling, rage in her eyes. This was supposed to be her moment, and yet the boring little sister was stealing attention from the most important person in the room. Sloane's jealousy was extreme. She intended to humiliate me, to make it appear as if I were faking my allergy for attention. She believed a touch of crab oil wouldn't kill me, only cause minor irritation, enough to embarrass me before Magnus, our parents, and the guests. She set her plan in motion. I didn't witness it directly, but witnesses later confirmed her actions. About 30 minutes before the soup course, Sloane excused herself and approached Chef Bastien, known for his inventive French cuisine. With her trademark PR smile, she requested a special touch, a small amount of his famous crab fat oil added to my truffle mushroom soup. Crab and truffle were unconventional together, but Chef Bastien agreed, thinking the flavors might complement one another. What he didn't know, and couldn't have, was that I had a life-threatening shellfish allergy. The bowl he prepared would become a weapon. When the soup arrived, it looked stunning. The waiter, Andy, placed the bowls carefully. Mine displayed shimmering reddish-brown swirls of oil that caught the candlelight. Sloane leaned over, her tone deceptively gentle. "I asked Chef Bastien to add smoked chili oil and pine mushroom extract to yours. I thought it would make it easier for you to enjoy." Normally cautious by nature, a trait essential for preserving centuries-old texts, I was negligent. The luxurious setting, Sloane's apparent thoughtfulness, and the soup's perfection deceived my senses. The earthy aroma of truffle mushrooms masked the faint scent of crab fat oil. I suspected nothing. I took a small spoonful. The flavor was rich and complex. For 5 seconds, I thought Sloane had genuinely been considerate. Then my throat began to close. The reaction was immediate and violent. My throat constricted as if gripped by an invisible fist. My lips tingled, burned, and swelled. My tongue thickened, blocking my airway. Hives erupted across my arms and chest, spreading rapidly. I tried to stand, but my legs failed. The room tilted sideways. I fell from my chair, hitting the thick carpet hard enough to drive what little air I had left from my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything except claw at my throat while harsh, broken, wheezing sounds escaped me, sounds that barely felt human. And through it all, I heard my sister laughing. Not a nervous laugh. Not a startled or regretful one. It was satisfied, almost victorious. See, Sloane said, her voice carrying clearly across the VIP room. She's eating mushrooms and pretending to be allergic to crab. This year's Oscar for Best Actress goes to Sailor Cole. Some guests laughed uncertainly. Others shifted in their seats, visibly uncomfortable, unsure whether this was an inappropriate family exchange or something far more serious. Come on, Sailor, Sloane continued, stepping closer as I struggled on the floor. You can stop the performance now. You've got everyone watching. Isn't that what you wanted? To turn my special night into something about you? I tried to look at her. I tried to make her understand that this wasn't an act, that I was in real danger. But my vision narrowed, black spots forming at the edges. A single thought surfaced clearly. This is how it ends. Killed by my own sister at a dinner party, while everyone assumes it's a joke. But Magnus Thorne was already there. Before I had fully collapsed, he was on his knees beside me, an EpiPen in hand. Move, he shouted, his voice cutting through the room. Someone call an ambulance, now. Then, more calmly to me, hold still. You're gonna be okay. I've got you. He removed the cap and injected the EpiPen straight through my dress into my thigh. I felt the surge of epinephrine rush through my body, sharp and cold. The relief wasn't instant, but it was real. The crushing pressure in my throat eased just enough for me to draw a thin, whistling breath. Ambulance, Magnus called again, scanning the room. Emergency services, immediately. And get oxygen if you have it. The restaurant manager was already on the phone with the dispatcher, voice shaking as he gave the address. A waiter ran for the first aid kit. Magnus looked down at me, focused and steady. Stay with me. Help is coming. As the room shifted into controlled chaos, I saw Sloane's expression change. The confidence drained from her face. Her smile faltered as she took in Magnus kneeling beside me, the EpiPen, the swelling of my lips. She was beginning to realize that this had gone far beyond what she imagined. I didn't think, she said weakly, stepping back. My mother rushed forward, pale and shaken. What happened? What's wrong with her? She's in anaphylactic shock, Magnus replied sharply. Someone put shellfish in her food. This is not a joke. Without epinephrine, she would have died within minutes. My father stared at the soup bowl, then slowly turned to Sloane. Understanding settled over his face. Sloane, he said quietly, what did you do? Nothing, she replied quickly. I just asked for mushroom soup. There wasn't supposed to be any crab. Before she could continue, Andy, the waiter, appeared beside her. Miss Sloane, he said hesitantly, should I clear the table? You told me earlier to be ready to clean everything up afterward. Not now, Sloane snapped. By then, the adrenaline had fully taken hold. The medication was forcing my heart to work harder, my airways to open, giving me a small but critical amount of strength, and with it, clarity. I reached out and grabbed Magnus Thorne's wrist with more force than I expected, my fingers locking around his watch. He looked down at me in surprise. I couldn't speak, but I pointed at the soup bowl, then clenched my fist, holding it steady. Magnus understood immediately. He had built an empire by reading situations and acting decisively. No one touches that soup, he said loudly. Security! Seal this table. This is now a crime scene. The restaurant security staff moved at once, forming a barrier around the table. Mr. Thorne, Sloane said with a forced laugh, isn't this a bit much? It's just a misunderstanding. Nothing leaves this room, Magnus interrupted coldly. Not the dishes, not the soup, not even a napkin until authorities arrive. My mother grabbed Sloane's arm. Tell me this wasn't intentional, she whispered. Tell me this was an accident. Sloane opened her mouth, but no words came. Her face had gone white. Lying on the floor, still holding Magnus's wrist, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction despite the pain and fear. With my last strength, I had preserved the key evidence, the soup that nearly killed me. That was my first small victory before darkness crept back into my vision. The last thing I recall before the paramedics arrived was Magnus leaning over me, his hand steady on my shoulder. You're strong, he said. You'll need that. The paramedics treated me there in the VIP room, administering another dose of epinephrine, supplying oxygen, and checking my vitals. My blood pressure was dangerously low. My oxygen levels were far below normal. She needs immediate transport, one paramedic said. She has to be monitored in the ER. Anaphylaxis can rebound hours later. Before they wheeled me out, Magnus turned to Sloane, his expression unreadable. You said this was ordinary mushroom soup? He said quietly. Her hands trembled as she clasped them together. Yes, she said, voice cracking. Just mushrooms. She always overreacts. This is probably a panic attack. A panic attack doesn't close the airway, Magnus replied flatly, and it doesn't require an EpiPen. Stop lying. At that moment, Chef Bastien rushed into the room, pale and shaken. Miss Sloane, he said, I was told there was a shellfish allergy involved. I don't understand. You personally requested the crab fat oil. You asked me to add it to the truffle soup. The room fell silent. You said it would be novel, the chef continued, unaware of the weight of his words. Unexpected. I thought you wanted to try it. Andy stepped forward. And Miss Sloane instructed me to place that specific bowl in front of Miss Saylor, he added quietly. She pointed to her seat. Silence settled heavily over the room. From the stretcher, oxygen mask covering my face, I watched my family's carefully built illusions collapse. My father looked stunned. My mother covered her mouth. They were seeing Sloane clearly for the first time. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't confusion or carelessness. It was deliberate. Sloane, my father said hollowly, tell me they're wrong. She looked around desperately. I just thought she exaggerated. I thought if she had a little, she'd see it wasn't that serious. I never thought it would be like this. I thought she'd just be uncomfortable. Maybe get hives. I never meant for it to be this serious. You never meant to almost kill your sister, Magnus said, his tone razor sharp. Is that your defense? Sloane's voice rose, sharp and shrill. She's always so dramatic. I just wanted her to stop stealing attention for once. This is my night, my promotion, and she has to make it about her and her stupid allergy. Shut up, my father said. I had never heard him speak to Sloane like that before. In our family, she had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. His sudden harshness stunned everyone into silence. We need to leave, a paramedic urged. Her condition could worsen. She needs to be in a hospital. They began wheeling me toward the ambulance. As we passed my family, I met their eyes. My mother was crying, her makeup streaked. My father looked years older in minutes. And Sloane, she looked terrified. Good, I thought. Be terrified. True toxicity isn't in overt acts of violence. It's in those sugar-coated moves disguised as care, in the deliberate testing of boundaries. I had spent 26 years as the quiet, understanding younger sister, overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed, because keeping the peace was easier than fighting back. But as the ambulance doors opened and the siren began, something inside me shifted. Sloane wasn't just jealous. She had risked my life to satisfy her ego and punish me for daring to excel, for drawing attention from someone who mattered. And my parents, who had always excused her cruelty and dismissed my hurt, could no longer ignore the truth. A cold clarity settled in, the ice that comes when you stop lying to yourself about those you love. The paramedic adjusted my oxygen mask. How are you feeling? She asked gently. I couldn't speak. My throat and vocal cords were too damaged. I raised my hand in a gesture she understood as okay. I wasn't okay, not physically or emotionally, but I was clear-minded. I was done being the submissive younger sister. I would handle this the way I handle a mold-damaged book, with ruthless precision, removing every harmful trace until nothing remained. Sloane had tried to destroy me. Instead, she had freed me. Now I would respond with precision, not chaos. Outside the restaurant, the situation continued to unfold. Magnus stood by the ambulance, phone in hand, ready to call his personal attorney with direct contacts to the district attorney's office. "I'm calling the police," he said. Sloan followed, desperate to control the narrative, her heels clicking frantically on the pavement. "This is attempted murder, or at least aggravated assault. Miss Cole will be arrested tonight." Sloan went pale. "No, please, Mr. Thorne. It was a mistake. I didn't mean—" "You deliberately contaminated your sister's food with a substance you knew she was deathly allergic to," Magnus said coldly. "At a company event using company resources, representing Thorne Global as our new PR director. If I call the police now, you'll be in handcuffs before midnight. Your career is over before it begins. Given the premeditation, you could face serious prison time." My mother clutched Sloane's arm. "Oh, my sweet girl, what have you done?" My father froze, calculating the fallout of a daughter arrested for attempted murder at a Michelin-starred restaurant. I saw my opportunity. Despite the oxygen mask and swelling throat, I raised my hand, signaling Magnus. "Don't call the police yet," I croaked. Each word was a struggle. "My lawyer? We'll handle this tomorrow." Relief washed over my family. My mother sobbed with gratitude. "Oh, Sailor, thank you, thank you." My father's shoulders slumped. "We'll work this out as a family." Sloane's expression mixed relief and contempt. She assumed I was too weak or loyal to press charges. Stepping closer, her voice took on that manipulative sweetness she used to get her way. "We're sisters. We're family. We can work through this together. Maybe therapy, family counseling." I raised my hand to stop her. My voice, hoarse but clear. "My lawyer will contact you with the terms." "Terms?" she asked, confused. "For the settlement," I clarified, swallowing the urge to cough. "You're going to pay for what you did. Every penny." Her face hardened. "You're going to sue me? Your own sister? Would you prefer prison?" I asked plainly. 8 years? State facility? Or a civil settlement? Your choice." Magnus gave a nod of approval. "Your lawyer should contact my office as well. Chef Bastian and Andy will provide full statements. Thorne Global will cooperate completely with any legal proceedings." "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me," Magnus said. "You saved yourself tonight. Preserving that evidence was smart. Most people panic and lose clarity." "I work with fragile things," I said, letting the paramedic replace the mask. "I know how to protect them." The paramedic signaled it was time to leave. "We need to go now. She must be under medical supervision." As the ambulance doors closed, I looked back at my family. They believed I had shown mercy, assumed I was still the quiet, accommodating sister. They were wrong. I needed time. Time to build an airtight case, gather evidence, and make what comes next undeniable. Sloan expected a gentle negotiation, perhaps a small payment or an apology to smooth things over. She had no idea what was coming. I spent 3 days in the hospital. The anaphylaxis had caused more damage than initially expected. My vocal cords were inflamed, leaving my voice weak. Speech therapy would take weeks. The repeated epinephrine doses had strained my heart, requiring monitoring. Psychologically, I was shaken. Nightmares, panic attacks triggered by the smell of mushrooms, but I didn't waste a moment feeling sorry for myself. On the second day, still on IVs and monitors, my lawyer, Mr. Lewis, visited. Sharp, mid-40s, aggressive in civil litigation and personal injury, he had impressed me 3 years prior with his efficiency. "Tell me everything," he said, pulling out his tablet to take notes. I told him everything. Every detail. Every moment. The conversation Magnus had with me that triggered Sloane's jealousy. The way she disappeared to speak with the chef. The soup that almost killed me. Her confession in front of witnesses. "This is airtight," Mr. Lewis said, eyes gleaming. "She confessed in front of a room full of people, including the CEO of a major corporation. We have the chef's testimony regarding her request to add crab oil. We have the server's testimony that she directed that bowl to you. We have the physical evidence, the soup itself, and we have Magnus Thorne as a witness to your medical emergency and his immediate intervention." "I want affidavits from Chef Bastian and Andy," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "in writing, notarized, before anyone can pressure them." "Consider it done," Mr. Lewis said. "I'll have them within 48 hours. And a full medical report," I added. "Every injury documented, throat damage, cardiac strain, psychological trauma, everything. Already ordered, the hospital is cooperating fully." I looked at him steadily. I want her destroyed, Mr. Lewis. Not hurt, not embarrassed, destroyed. I want her to lose everything she values, career, money, reputation. I want my parents to understand exactly what their golden child is capable of. And I want it done legally, cleanly, completely. Mr. Lewis smiled, predatory. How much are we asking? $900,000, I said without hesitation. Enough to ruin her financially, but not so much that it seems unreasonable. It covered medical expenses, lost income, pain and suffering, psychiatric care, and was just low enough to make her think she was getting off easy. You've thought this through. I've had time to think, I said. One more thing. Mediation, not court. Quick resolution. 3 weeks from tonight? Can you arrange that? For $900,000 in a clear case, they'll jump at mediation, terrified of a jury award. Good, I said. My silence isn't forgiveness, it's strategy. Mr. Lewis stood, closing his tablet. Your sister tried to kill you, Miss Cole. She deserves everything coming to her. Worse than that, I corrected quietly. She tried to make me small, weak, prove I was nothing. She wanted me to survive, humiliated. She underestimated me. She didn't account for someone who works with fragile, precious things. Someone who knows how to protect them, repair them, and remove threats completely, permanently, without mercy. Over the next 2 weeks, while I recovered at home, Mr. Lewis moved relentlessly. He secured sworn affidavits from Chef Bastien and Andy, gathered medical records, collected expert opinions, and compiled an airtight case file. My family? They assumed I was healing, processing trauma, deciding whether to forgive. My mother sent expensive flowers that I donated. My father left rambling voicemails about not letting this tear the family apart. Sloan texted, "Can we talk?" I think there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't respond. My silence wasn't forgiveness. It was the calm before the storm, the moment when you aim carefully because you only get one shot. On day 19, Mr. Lewis called. Mediation was scheduled for day 21, exactly 3 weeks after the incident. I smiled for the first time since the poisoning. Perfect. It took 3 weeks for my swelling to subside enough to speak without pain and for my body to stabilize. That's how long it took Mr. Lewis to assemble every piece of evidence into a legal file so airtight that even the most expensive defense attorney would advise settlement. That's how long my family waited before they tried to sweep attempted murder under the rug like a minor stain. The mediation room smelled of lemon polish and desperation. Neutral beige walls, long oak table, leather chairs, the kind of corporate space where million-dollar deals die quietly, where careers end with a signature. I arrived early with Mr. Lewis, hands trembling slightly from medication I would be on for months. The doctors said the tremors would fade. I wasn't sure I wanted them to. They reminded me of what I'd nearly lost. Sloan arrived 12 minutes late. Of course she did. Even now, she played for power. Dove gray dress, soft chignon, innocent victim, perfectly applied makeup. But the expression, eyes just wide enough, lips pressed, revealed her intent. Practiced remorse, manipulation, lies. Mom and Dad flanked her. Dad's jaw set in stubborn authority. Mom's eyes showed fear, maybe desperation. Mom, she started softly. We're so glad you're feeling better. I didn't respond. Mr. Lewis had coached me. Speak only when necessary. Let the evidence do the talking. Don't be manipulated. Sloan leaned forward, voice cracking. Sailor, I'm so sorry. I only thought you'd get a rash or itchy throat. I just wanted to tease you, get you to loosen up. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. Stop, I said sharply. Everyone flinched. My mother interjected, Sailor, she made a mistake. Terrible, but unintentional. Can't you let it go? Let it go? After almost being poisoned? After being forced to fight for my life? Dad spoke, Sailor, I know you're angry, but we are your family. Family forgives, moves forward. Something inside me snapped, not in their favor. My final tether to obligation, guilt, and the desperate wish to be chosen first fell away. My voice shook, not from weakness, but rage and grief and clarity. No, I do not forgive. Sloan's mask of victimhood faltered. I looked at each of them. Sloan, Mom, Dad. I would not relent. Silence. Then Mr. Lewis opened his briefcase, snap, judge's gavel. Miss Cole, he said, addressing Sloan clinically, no sisterly nicknames, no family ties. You are a PR director. You've built a career manipulating optics, narratives, public perception. You know exactly how actions will be seen. He slid a document across the table. You're smart enough to know the line between a prank and attempted manslaughter. Mr. Lewis said. Sloane's face went white. That's not. I didn't. We have testimony from Chef Bastien confirming you specifically requested crab fat oil be added to your sister's soup, he continued calmly, and from Andy the server that you personally ensured the soup went to her place. Toxicology reports confirm shellfish proteins in Miss Sailor Cole's system at levels consistent with deliberate contamination. He pulled out more documents. Your text messages to Chef Bastien from 3 days before the dinner asking about ingredients that could trigger a reaction. Your internet search history. How much shellfish causes allergic reaction? Can you hide crab oil in soup? Symptoms of severe allergic reaction. Every piece of evidence confirms planning. This was premeditated, Mr. Lewis said. The DA's office would pursue aggravated assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Given the planning, you're looking at 8 years in a state correctional facility. Color drained from my parents' faces. Sloane shook her head frantically. No, that's not, I didn't mean. Mr. Lewis's tone softened slightly. Alternatively, my client is willing to settle civilly. We will forego criminal prosecution in exchange for full compensation. Medical expenses, pain and suffering, emotional distress, and punitive damages. Dad found his voice. How much? I nodded to Mr. Lewis. $900,000. The number hung in the air. That's insane, Sloane said, composure shattered. I don't have that kind of money. You have a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside Heights, jewelry, a vehicle, investments, Mr. Lewis recited. Your parents have retirement funds and home equity. The alternative, prison, criminal record, and civil liability. This settlement includes a full release of liability and an NDA protecting your reputation. You keep your freedom and dignity. Mom gasped. Dad stared at the table, searching for a solution in the grain. Sloane finally looked at me. For the first time, I saw that she understood this wasn't her little sister anymore. This wasn't someone who would swallow insults or make herself small. This was someone who had nearly died and decided survival wasn't enough. You can't do this, she whispered. I can. I am, I said. Fear and disbelief flickered across my parents' faces, and underneath I saw something new. Hatred. The kind reserved for someone who refuses to play their assigned role. I didn't look back. Their opinions no longer mattered. It took 45 minutes, Dad arguing the amount down, Mom crying, Sloane alternating between rage and desperation. In the end, math was simple. $900,000 or 8 years in prison. They signed. I watched Sloane's hand shake as she penned the signature that would bind her to financial ruin. My parents co-signed, trading retirement security for her freedom. Sloane looked at me one last time. I'm your sister, she said, hollow. No, I replied, gathering my coat. You tried to kill me. That's the difference. I left the beige room, stepped into afternoon sunlight that felt like absolution. Behind me, my mother cried. My father shouted my name in anger. I didn't look back. By the next season, Sloane Cole was unemployed. The PR firm quietly let her go, citing restructuring, but industry circles knew the truth. The whispers followed her, unstable, liability, the girl who poisoned her sister. She liquidated assets to cover the settlement, apartment, jewelry, car. My parents withdrew pension funds and mortgaged their home. Each payment stripped away the life Sloane had built on the suffering of others. Months later, through industry gossip, I learned about her engagement attempt. She charmed Richard, an old money divorced acquaintance. For 2 months, she played the role perfectly, posted curated social media images, tried to reclaim a life of influence. But eventually, the truth surfaced. The woman who poisoned her sister sued into financial ruin. He removed her efficiently. Locks changed, belongings packed, no drama. Last I heard, she worked at a telemarketing company, $12 an hour, fluorescent lights, reading scripts. 1 year later, I stood in my library. My library. The words felt surreal. A converted warehouse, exposed brick. Light, natural light pouring over rows of custom shelves filled with books in various stages of restoration. Some pristine, others carefully repaired from water, mold, acid damage. This was Coal Conservation and Restoration, my company. I had almost used a different last name to shed family ties, but Mr. Lewis advised, own it. The settlement provided the seed, $900,000 minus legal and medical expenses, enough to lease the space, buy equipment, hire 2 junior conservators, and establish credibility. Nearly dying had made me a legend in certain circles. the book conservator who survived an attempted murder and built an empire. Magnus Thorne had opened doors unimaginable, entrusting me with a 400-year Thorne family archive worth $200,000 annually for 5 years. Now, a year later, my company was valued at $2.5 million. I walked through the library, feeling the textures of leather, cloth, and vellum. Each book was a preserved fragment of someone's world. Damaged volumes were stabilized, repaired, or carefully let go. The work was meditative, solitary, the kind suited to someone who learned that not all relationships can be repaired. Emily and David, my junior conservators, worked in the back, humming, handling letters from the 18th century. Every shelf, tool, restored page reflected how I turned the worst event of my life into something beautiful. My phone buzzed, final payment cleared. Sloane's debt and my parents' liability was fully paid. I stared, waiting to feel triumph or closure. Instead, I felt quiet. I walked to the window, city sprawling below. Somewhere, Sloane sat in a cubicle, reading scripts, hung up on repeatedly. My parents were in their mortgaged house, resenting me. Their opinions were distant, irrelevant. I turned back to the restoration table. A 16th century manuscript awaited, brittle edges darkened by time but legible, valuable. I donned gloves, selected tools with surgical precision. This was my life now, preserving what was precious, eliminating harmful agents, acid on paper or toxicity in blood. Sunlight slanted through the windows, illuminating dust like golden snow. My life was whole, built on the ashes of the sister who tried to kill me. For the first time in 26 years, I was exactly where I needed to be.